everyone, and welcome to another live edition of Wealth Building Wednesday. It is indeed a pleasure to be here with you. I am your host, Miss Lydia Chapman. I currently serve as the co-director for TRHT Selma. TRHT Selma stands for Truth, Racial Healing, and Transformation. We are a project brought to you by an initiative sponsored by the W.K. Kellogg Foundation, which is a partnership here in Selma between the Selma Center for Nonviolence, and the Black Belt Community Foundation. Wealth Building Wednesday is a 30-minute, look, really quick opportunity for us to just pour some nuggets, some really important things that we can walk away and start to do what? Build wealth. We want to make sure that we start to balance the scales on personal finance, business development, nonprofit management, y'all, because we've got a lot of work to do. We've got the next generation that are depending on us to get it right. And so today we are honored to have, listen, coming in with her skates on, Miss Tanesha Purifoy. She is a banking professional, and we are super, super excited to have her here. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. So today our topic is budgeting. Now I know for a lot of folks, that's a curse word. That is a dirty word in their vocabulary, just like dieting might be for me. However, these things are necessary. So Tanisha, let's dive straight into the topic for today. And again, we want to invite folks to like this video, love this video, share this video, and comment. We are coming to you live. So if you have questions, please feel free to type those into the comment section. I'll also drop in some of the nuggets because I know Ms. Purifoy comes with lots of information. So I'll be dropping some of those things into the comments as well. So a personal budget. What is a personal budget and why is a personal budget important to maintain?
Okay. So, in simply speaking, a personal budget is nothing more than a detailed list of your income and your expenses set over a specific period of time. And a lot of people have different time frames for budgets, and the most common is monthly. But some people do daily budgets, weekly budgets, even yearly, depending on what the occasion may be or what that financial goal may be. But it's nothing more than basically a list of everything that you bring in and everything that you are paying out.
All righty. So are budgets really important? Like, do we need a budget?
Oh man, anybody doing anything financially, I would definitely have to say that a budget is pretty important. A lot of it is the foundation for financial success because it helps you to define your parameters and set your foundation and get a clear visual of where you are financially so that you can see where you are to kind of help you decide where you're going or where you want to be. So it's very, very vital. I think it's very underrated. Budgets are very underrated and people don't talk about them as much as they should. So yes, very, 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 very important. Budgets are.
Now, in another life, I facilitate conversations around family development, planning for the future, and talk about sex a lot, right? Because I'm also an HIV educator and communication. You said we need to talk about budgets. Communication is so important, and talking about right with when developing relationships, especially romantic relationships that could develop into marriage.
Absolutely.
Talking about the budget is
Yes.
so critical, y'all. Because if we used to
Absolutely,
buying coat,
absolutely. A budget is beneficial. It could actually make or break some relationships, and I think that sometimes that, particularly concerning that component, it's very, very important and vital that we assess who we connect ourselves with on personal level, relationship level, even business and partnership level, and that budget is right in the middle of it. I think something that we don't discuss enough around budgets is that it requires you to have discipline. And it really reveals the level of discipline that you have. So if you are, embarking upon a new relationship in any regard, you might want to kind of talk budget and kind of assess how they're really following it. And if they're not, then you may want to, reconsider.
I know, right? So now we've talked about in previous episodes the journey to home ownership, and even talked about personal credit. So there's this term debt to income ratio that people throw out there. So what exactly is debt to income ratio, and what does that percentage mean for us?
Well, actually, like it's just a ratio or a formula that really basically tells lenders how well you can manage your existing commitments and pay us back too. It's the percentage that you calculate your monthly income and you divide that by I'm sorry, you add up your bills or your debt and then you divide that by your income. And that gives you your percentage. Now anything that is 35% or better is pretty good. Anything
Okay.
above 35 to 49-ish, just kind of watch it. Anything over 50, we got to go back to this budget and we're going to
Okay.
reevaluate it. Okay, so that's just to give you some very loose parameters for what a DTI should be. But ultimately, the goal is to not spend more than you make and to live within your means. And that's the important of that debt to income ratio when you're speaking about home ownership or you're speaking about credit or anything that is concerning lending.
Hmm.
Lenders just want to know that you're responsible when it comes to any lender of any type. Will you pay me back? It's what they want to know. And not only will you, the DTI really speaks to more so, can you? I
Mm.
see, or I have seen in some experiences where people are saying, oh, my credit score's 790 and I can't get approved. Well, you may have a 790 credit score, but if you only bring in $1,000 a month for income, what exactly can you do with
Right.
that $1,000? Can you live and can you pay us back? So that's really um, the layman's version of the importance of a DTI or a debt to income ratio for percentage.
So now this word budget, if I have never in my life tried to use a budget, what are some of the beginning things that I need to do in order to put these boundaries? Because that's what I really hear when I hear the word boundary, just like diet. Listen, okay, like we're putting boundaries on what we're spending. So what are some baby steps that I can take to establish a budget?
Baby steps would definitely be to open your eyes and have a very honest conversation with yourself about how much money do I really make, okay? And
Mhm.
of the money that I really make, how much of that am I really spending? So it would start with a pen and a piece of paper. How much money do I make? Write it down. When it comes to your bills and your expenses, write them out. Everything from your mortgage or your rent to your car payment to your insurances to your hair, nails, food, gasoline, even down to your, cup of coffee at the coffee shop. All of those things are part of your, if you know that this is a part of your routine, write those things down. And once you get to that place, I like to try to stick to a personal thing of mine is 50, 30, 20. 50% of your income should be applied towards your actual debts and your responsibilities. 30 can be applied to what you want, and 20 would be to push back to save. Now, for me, I'm kind of a penny pincher at times. So sometimes for me, I will reverse the two. I will try to say 30 and spend 20. However, it's just up to you, however you choose to to map that out. But that's pretty much a rule of thumb that I give to people to kind of live by. 50% your responsibilities, 30% for your fun, and 20% to automatically save. So if you just are a person and you don't know anything about budgets, if that's still too high level for you, friend, take a pen and a piece of paper, write down how much money you make, and then write down exactly what it is that you're spending in as detailed form as you possibly can, and balance the two and weigh the two. And then you can come up with your own real life true debt to income ratio. And even though with lending, sometimes it's not going to be as detailed. They're not going to care about your coffee that you're buying at the coffee shop unless you're buying a whole lot of coffee, right? But for the most part, it's about those responsibilities, things that you sign your name for, other debts with other lenders. That's the biggest and the bulk of the focus. Um, but yeah, just get really simple. Have an honest conversation with yourself. What am I spending? What do I make? And am I living within my means? I know it's kind of tough sometimes
Yeah.
to do um, when you see everything else that's going on. You have all these TV shows, and you got to have fresh hair, fresh nails, fresh makeup, fresh this. But if that's not in your budget, friend, let's not. Okay, let's choose to wait. And budgets do require discipline, and I think that I think I heard you mention something about, just in reference to relationships and things and whatnot. It's
Hmm.
very important who you have around you to kind of support you in your financial efforts. If you know that you're a person that's frugal, don't hang out with a lot of people who just, well, don't keep a lot of people around you who are just frivolous. They're just going to spend, they're just going to do. You just have to really be careful with that and really apply that balance. And if you have more people around you that are not going in the same direction as you are financially, again, it may be time to reevaluate.
So evaluating is a real important part of what I'm hearing you describe
Yes.
when it comes to budgeting.
Yes.
Evaluating what your real income is,
Mm-hmm.
right? Not looking at the gross amount, right? But considering that, if especially for folks who are 1099, like contract workers,
Absolutely.
right? Don't look
Absolutely.
at that whole check and say, "Oh, I made $1,200 this week," or "I made $5,000 this week."
Correct.
We have to remember three letters: IRS. They want theirs, right? So,
And you'll get it.
so make sure that you're setting aside, work with an accountant or someone that
Yes.
you know and trust to set aside that money so that you're continuously paying, so that you won't have sticker shock, right?
Yeah.
When it's time to file those income taxes and it's like,
Yes.
where, why do I owe them? Well, baby, because you looked at that check and saw 5,000 instead of 3,272.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. So this is a wonderful conversation, y'all. Again, make sure that you are liking and sharing this video. If you are tuned in live on WBFZ 105.3, thank you for listening. Always remember, you can tune in right here live on Facebook, 10 o'clock a.m. Central Standard Time, and live on WBFZ. Well, pre-recorded on WBFZ at 1:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Shout out to all of our wonderful supporters, including WBFZ 105.3. So now, when it comes to saving, is saving truly important? I know you mentioned the interchangeability of the 30% and the 20% when it comes to that 50/30/20 ratio, and you talked about 20% being saving. Is saving really important when it comes to budgeting?
Oh, absolutely. I think that if you're struggling with it, if you don't really save and you're a spender, if something comes up, you won't have anything to continue to pay. So
Mm,
saving is completely vital because if it's one thing that we know, bills are going to come. Expenses will be here. They're not going anywhere. As long as you have life and breath, these things are going to continue. So if you're not setting aside something to the side to be able to kind of support you in that unexpected event of things happening, then you really should consider doing so. Saving to me is essential. Another thing that we really don't consider a lot of times, we think about the right now, but we
mm,
don't really think about the later. Do you really want to have to work until you're 72 or until you're 75? If you want to do that, great. That's something that you can do that if you want to do it. But do you want to have to do that? Is that something you want to have to do? So the way you save and invest is very going to be very vital and very important to your financial success long term. So it's definitely something that should be on every budget. And a lot of people say, well, I can't afford to save. Put it in your budget. Or consider setting up something that is automatic that comes out before it even hits your actual check. A lot of people don't know that you can actually do that if you're working on a job. The same way that you set up your direct deposit for all of your money to go into your checking account, just try to take that percentage off at the top. So that way you don't even miss it. You're just saving, it's just going over there, and you're not missing it. You're not feeling like I'm having to give up, something out of your income. So just set something to the side um, ahead of time, out of sight, out of mind.
Now that is a great tip as well. So you are, when you're thinking about when you're enrolling in your direct deposit program at your job, or you can go back to HR and say, hey, I want to have a portion of my income, a portion of my pay sent to another account. If it's a savings account, and if you know yourself and you need to keep that money far away, set up an account in a bank. And this is something that someone told me years ago, and I live by it. put it in a bank that's not here.
in your state.
Like that's close by you, like so that you actually have to drive or go like far
Yes.
to
Yes.
access that money. Don't get a bank card because that makes it
Mm-hmm.
easy. Just set that account up so that if you have to have that money, it's accessible, but it's not something that you rely on, like, oh, okay, well, yeah, let's go out to eat. And, and then here you go spending your
Oh
savings.
Lord, yeah, yeah, yeah. Trust me, it works. I can tell you, it works.
Yes, it
It
really,
definitely.
really does.
Yeah.
So what about now managing our bills? Are there any strategies that we can use? I know that a lot of folks have experienced pretty tough times over the last year and a half. What are some ways that we can save when it comes to our monthly bills?
Well, again, it goes back to personal discipline. Even with this budget, it will
Okay.
require discipline. I do know that there are certain companies, especially utilities, sometimes, and even financial institutions that will offer you a discount for
Hmm.
if you set up your payments on automatic payments. They will sometimes offer you a percentage, sometimes of interest rate. They'll offer you percentages off. Sometimes also consider things like budget billing. If you're doing budget billing, a lot of people may not trust it, but trust me, you never know what the weather's going to be like. Set that thermostat and leave it. Don't keep adjusting it every time. Little things like that can help you on your regular bills every month. And just don't be wasteful, guys. I think that many of us don't really acknowledge how blessed we are in comparison to how many others live. A lot of us are really, 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 truly blessed to live in abundance, but just don't be a hog. Turn the lights off in the room. The furnitures really don't need lights to read, right? Or to
Right.
see. So just turn the lights off if you're not using them. Just be more responsible and be frugal, um, and disciplined. Just have the discipline to not do it. Really be able to own and assess the difference between a need and a want. So if you don't need that extra stuff, just cut it off. Trust me. Those small subscriptions, those small little things, they add up over time.
Yes.
So if there's something that you don't have to have, you know, then just don't have it. Why do you? Let's just say I know a lot of people have Netflix and Hulu, those streamings. If I have it, if I have it, and someone else in my home lives with me, why are we both paying? We can just share.
Right.
We can share the login. We're right in the same space. Just be creative and find ways to really keep those expenses to a minimum, and you'll see financial success. Just the little things will add up over time.
All right. So now, speaking of the little things, what are some of the pitfalls that may happen as we attempt to do this thing called budgeting? What are some of the shortcomings, or some of the things we need to just simply look out for or be
Right.
mindful of as we attempt to budget?
Again, I think the biggest thing is going to be the disappointment of just realizing, hey, I can't do everything. I may want it, but I don't need it, so I'm not going to buy it. So that may make you feel a little sad. Sometimes if your friends are going here and there and everywhere, and you know that you've established a budget and you know what your financial goals are, not just for now, but in the future, that may mean, hey, you get to watch their trip from home or social media and like and love their pictures and live vicariously through them, right? However, you get to keep your coins
Hmm.
in your bank to make sure that you're continuing to be able to go ahead and contribute to your financial future. Discipline is going to be key. It's going to be sometimes when you want to go and you cannot, something that you want to spend that you just cannot purchase because you have to stay within your budget. So that may, be a little bit of FOMO, fear of missing out. But aside from that, that's the bulk of it. Um, I don't really see many pitfalls to budgeting. It's really
Okay.
more so of a strength than an opportunity. So just tough it out, find you something to do. And I think another thing that's important, again, would be your circle and the people that are closest to you.
Absolutely.
Don't surround yourself with people that won't make your sacrificing for the greater good feel like torture. If everyone knows, it's called delayed gratification for a reason. It's not that you don't want to live a good life. It's not that you don't want to do these things, but you're really thinking more so about the future than the right now. And these little sacrifices, they'll pay off in the long run. So that circle and that village is quite important. It makes it easier. And don't worry about what the Joneses are doing. Let the Joneses do what the Joneses are going to do. You just be concerned with what you can do, what you're able to do, and surround yourself with people that's enough for. to make it easier for you.
Absolutely. Just to kind of point to how this crosses over in so many respects. Earlier, we were having a conversation about this, and I mentioned that, when we watch reality television, we oftentimes see people who may be on a weight loss journey. And, those who are most successful have family members who are supportive, people who are living in their home who are supportive of what they're doing. So, surrounding ourselves with people of like minds, people who are willing to move forward with similar financial goals, or even putting ourselves in the room. I think, what do you think about putting ourselves in the room with people who have achieved where we're trying to go?
Absolutely, that's the key. I mean, that's the blueprint, and actually, that's what the budget is supposed to be. And I know we're talking about budgets, but
Hmm.
there is a such thing as a financial plan. The budget is the right now. This is what my life looks like right now. But I always compare and put those two together. You have the
Okay.
budget that's here, but you also have the financial plan. This is the life you want. I mean, this is the life you have, but this is the life that you want. So get around those people. How do you do what you do? How do you monetize? How did you get to where you got to? And be humble enough to receive that information, um, and apply it so that we can all win together. That's what it's about. So, yes, absolutely. Surround yourself with those like minds and those who are where you aspire to be.
Awesome. So now, how can our financial institutions help us budget? Are there ways that we can work with the folks, our banks and credit unions, to say, hey, what are some things that they can help us do when it comes to saving, to investing, and to making sure that we maintain our spending um, and budget? Look.
Yeah. Well, I have experience with a lot of financial institutions. There are several tools that are out there that I know that a lot of the companies offer. Things like text alerts. So if
Mhm.
you make a spend or if you make a purchase or you spend something, then you'll have something to, like an alert or a text or something to come to your phone and say, hey, you spent $1 here. And then you can have those. Alerts that'll also just kind of tell you about where your balance. If you don't want to reach below a certain thing, you can get an alert if your account exceeds or falls under a certain amount. Those alerts are great. Another thing that I've seen are actual budget toolkits. These are things where people actually, these are the paper copies where you can actually write down all of your expenses and put them into the proper categories. There was one cool feature that I saw with one financial institution, and it was actually a spending tracker. And what it does is merely tracks your spending, and it puts it into a graph or a chart so that you can see exactly how much money you're spending and where you're spending it. So I know for some of us who are foodies and have people who love to dine, sometimes you can eat out a whole lot, and you'd be surprised if you just add that stuff up, how much it can how much it can come up to. So I know there are like budget trackers, and then you have things like your savings trackers. Like if you have goals for the future, for retirement or things like that, if you want to
Mm.
reach or save a little bit to reach a certain goal for retirement, there are trackers for that also. So what I would suggest is that whatever financial institution that you do bank with, that you just ask them, hey, what tools do you have to help me about saving? I want to save a little bit. Do you have anything that can help me? But if you just go out to a variety of their websites and just kind of search their saving or their budgeting tools, I'm sure that you will find an array of information. Yeah.
So when I tell you I've used one of those spending trackers, and
The chart,
the yeah,
the graph.
the graph, and I was shocked.
Mm-hmm.
It
It'll tell
helped
you.
me to become less of a foodie.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um, haven't really lost the weight as a result of that. But I definitely found myself spending less because I said, "Oh my God, for real?"
Yes.
And when you see it on paper, when you see those things, see that graph, and like it's colorful, it can be very colorful. But when you see where you're investing your money, as much as we have to consider, where you invest in your time. You invest your time and your money with what you care about. So we want to make sure that we're budgeting both of those according to what our financial plan or what our future plans are. I love the fact that you said that the budget is right now but we all should have some financial planning, some goals that we want to make sure that we achieve. So this is an awesome conversation, y'all. Again, like, love, care, share this video with your people, y'all. Even if you're not live on Facebook. If you're listening in on WBFZ, make sure that you tell somebody to tell somebody. Family bring a friend, friend bring a family to this information every Wednesday, Wealth Building Wednesday. Our guest today is Miss Tanesha Purifoy. I do want to get to our last couple of questions before we sign off for the good people. What are some of the most common mistakes people make when selecting bank accounts?
I would say the most common mistake is using saving accounts as checking accounts. A lot of
Mm,
times, people will come in and say, "Hey, I want to open a savings account," but then they'll turn around and they'll ask for a debit card. Well, you may have an ATM card to be able to access those funds in the event of emergency, but the purpose of the savings account is to have the money to sit there and stay and compound daily interest so that the bank can pay you. If you're continuously taking money out of that, then your money can't sit and compound to gain the interest that they actually will pay you. So it's going to be important that you just kind of get as much knowledge about what it is that you're going in to get, and not just let someone give you what they feel like you need to have. Be open and have honest conversations with the bankers that sit in front of you. I think that that's the most important thing. Take charge. I mean, you're sitting there. They need to see you just as much as you need to see them. Be honest with them, be vulnerable, and say, "Hey, this is where I am, this is what I would like to do, and this is what I need." And from that conversation, don't be afraid to walk away if what they have to offer you does not benefit you. It's
mm.
your financial future, it's your financial success that is on the line. And if you can't get any benefit from that, go on to bank somewhere else where you do find that benefit. So be knowledgeable. Don't be afraid to ask questions. It's their job to tell you anything that you don't know. They're the professionals. So ask the questions and don't just settle for what someone gave you. And then, you have people that will advise you. Sometimes they may not know what's best for your situation. What they recommended may be best for them. Be honest, assess your own situation, and pick the accounts that are best for you.
Awesome. So now, right before we wrap up, just want to ask if there is anything in your many years in the finance world, what is it something that most folks don't know, or that you think people should keep in mind as we think about this thing called budgeting and banking?
Um, when it comes to budgeting and banking, I think my biggest takeaway from banking has been to um, empowerment. Learn, ask the questions. You would be surprised how often we just go in and we're doing one of the most same things. We're just asking for what someone else has told us to ask for. My biggest takeaway has been to learn the finance industry, learn how money
Mm.
works, and let money work for you. Don't work your whole life for money and that money not turn around and benefit you. Um, and just really, really seek the knowledge, guys. Seek the knowledge. It's there. If you want it, ask for it. And if you can't, if they somebody won't tell you, ask somebody else. And then if they won't tell you, open a book or search the internet or just
Absolutely.
utilize your resources, but don't let your hunger for your financial success or your financial literacy die. Get the answers you need by any means necessary. So, because some things are what they are, and in the financial system, and someone's always going to benefit. So why shouldn't it be you?
All right. Well, she just summed it up. Someone is going to benefit. So why shouldn't it be you? And who we want to benefit from Wealth Building Wednesday is you, and yes, you. We definitely appreciate you, Ms. Purifoy, for joining us, for taking time out to share this valuable information. We thank all of you who are viewing live on Facebook and listening in on WBFZ. And until next Wednesday, y'all, please put these tips to work, right? We want this stuff to benefit all of us. So we thank you so very much.
Guys.
All righty.